Alright, so in this screencast, I'm going to talk a little bit about how to take your thaumotrope that you created by hand and test out how to make that work digitally as well in Photoshop. So you're going to open up Photoshop and you're going to open up the two images of your thaumotrope. So you can see I have this one here, and then I also have my second one. Right, so in essence, we want to put them together and have them move something like this so that you can see the transition or the change. So what I'm going to do is take one of my images and I'm going to bring it into the other. So I need them both to be together. So I'm going to do Command A or Control A if you're on a PC, and I'm going to do Command C or Control C to copy this image. And I'm going to go over to my initial image, and I'm going to do Control or Command V. And what Command V will do is paste your image into the file. So you can see now I have these two files. But the thing is that they're two separate sizes too, so I need to make sure that when I create this animation that they're the same size, because I can't have one being smaller than the other. You want to make sure your layer bar is open. If it's not, you want to go to Window, Layers, and open it up so that I can see my layers right here on my layer bar. Okay, so you can see here I have my background, which is the initial image, and I have my my layer 1, which is the change. So I need to make sure that they work together. So in order to see underneath, to see what's happening, I'm going to select layer 1, and I'm going to go up to opacity. I'm going to take the opacity down just a little bit from my first image, from my layer 1 image, so that I can see through it, right? So now I can see the image underneath. I need to make it bigger. So in order to make it bigger, I'm going to do Command T or Control T, and that will bring up my transformation tool. And I can pull from any of these points. In order to keep the picture in proportion, it depends on the Photoshop that you have. I believe that the newest version of Photoshop, you don't have to do this, but on mine I have to. So I'm going to hold the Shift key down. It will keep it in proportion. Yours might just keep it in proportion to begin with. And I'm going to make the picture bigger and just make it so that it really fits on top of the picture underneath. So if I needed to nudge it, I could use my arrows to move it up and down, left and right. I can also rotate it a little bit if I needed to. So I think that's good. So once you're done transforming it, I'm going to hit Enter or Return. And now I'm going to turn the opacity back up to 100%. So now I have my layer 1 and layer 2. So that looks pretty good, right? So how do we make this actually move? So right now I'm like manually moving it myself with turning the eyeball on and off, but I want to use the timeline, the animation timeline in Photoshop. So what you're going to do is go to Window, Timeline, and this timeline will pop up. Right? So I want to create an animation. Whoops. Yours might be, might say create video timeline. I don't want you to create a video timeline. We're going to create a frame animation, meaning each layer is its own frame. So I'm going to do frame animation. I'm going to click on the create frame animation, and you can see that the first picture comes up. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to make frames from layers. So it's taking all of my layers, it's going to make them into frames that will show up on my timeline. So if I go to make frame from layers, you can see that both of those images now pop up on my timeline. And it gives you some options. So I have the option of how long I want it to be. So right now it's 0 seconds. So maybe I'm going to put it on 2.2 seconds. And you can also vary it. Maybe one's going to be longer than the other, whatever. And I'm going to also put it on repeat. So underneath where it says only happen once, you could have it happen once, you could have it happen 3 times, forever, or you can customize that. So I'm going to do forever, so it just continues to repeat. And you can see that I have created an animation for my thaumotrope. Right? Now if I did it faster, let's do 0.1 second. You can see it goes faster. And you can also obviously do it slower. So these are things that you can play around with. And that is how you create an animation in Photoshop, or one way.